I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item on the agenda is an adoption of the agenda. I heard that Commissioner Carabelli made the motion, support by Commissioner Kraft. Please vote, voice vote. No. Aye. Mike's here?
No, he said to vote.
Okay.
He's getting something going, yeah.
All right, let's do voice vote. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye. Aye. Aye, okay, motion passes. All right, anybody opposed? Thanks. All right, gotcha. All right, approval of the minutes. Carabelli, support? Ha. All right, looking for a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, anybody opposed? Okay. Public participation. Anybody out in the public want to talk to us today? All right, going once, going twice, going to close public participation. No, that's right. Department recommendations, item 6A. We got some purchases here from the Sheriff's Department. Come on up. Anybody here from the Sheriff's Department? I guess Tony will come up. Hi, Sheriff. Might as well have you come up. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this looks like it's the purchase of some Chevrolet Tahoes, the 5, that I believe was part of an overall budget thing that we looked at. So what I'll do before you begin, just for housekeeping purposes, I'm looking for a motion to move this to full board. Carabelli, supported by Kleinfeld. All those in favor? Well, let's go ahead and discuss. Go ahead and discuss if you can, Tony.
Basically,
Test. Basically, out of our fleet budget, it's the purchase of 5 vehicles. We're obviously going with Tahoes because Explorers are hard to get, and the Ford Tauruses are starting to be phased out. So the police package vehicles are being limited probably now to either a Tahoe or an Explorer. So we need vehicles, and so we're going with the 5 Tahoes.
Okay, are there any speakers on this? Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Yeah, I didn't press the button, go ahead.
Okay. Carabelli, you want the floor first?
no, go ahead.
Oh, that's funny.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kleinfeld. Thank you, Commissioner.
Oh, I was just going to say those of us with ties to GM are appreciative of that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I can't get my list up. That's fine. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kleinfeld. Commissioner Carabelli?
If you know, great. If not, you can get back to me. Are these brand new, not replacements? Or are these
No, they're brand new, not replacements.
no replacements?
Yeah, we don't buy replacements.
No. Are they
Oh,
replacing current fleet vehicles?
Five addition, no, they're not additional, they're replacements.
Okay,
Yes,
and the older vehicles?
we'll go to auction. That's what county policy is.
Thank you.
I thought they're used ones, but
No worries.
yeah.
Thank
I
you.
was gonna say we don't do.
Okay, any other any other speakers on this? All right, just to note too, folks, our full board meeting, this is for you to know, Tony, our full board meeting right after this meeting is so that we can get approval to get this thing going for you real quick, because I understand you guys need this ASAP. So, all right, with that, we have a motion on the table. Please vote to move it to full board, which is going to be right after this. Did you have something to say, Commissioner Brown? If you do, go ahead. You sure? Okay. Please vote.
Oh, I got it handy. All right, later. Nothing came up.
All right, let's do a voice vote, please, on the motion. All those in favor of moving this to full board, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion moves forward. Thank you. All right. We'll talk about your raise next, Captain. All right, item 6B, information technology. We have some stuff for Vital Records software. Come on up. Is that going to be Brian? All right, come on up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So we have 2 motions before you. The first one is an extension of our current agreement with Avenue, which provides the database software for the Vital Records Department for our daily functions of indexing all of our vital records information. We're asking for an extension from April 1st until the end of June. This is with the current vendor who lost the bid for the replacement. As you're aware, we went out for a bid for new technology last year, and that was awarded to Tyler Technologies. We had anticipated going live with Tyler Technologies by April 1st, and unfortunately, the vendor we had took an additional 4 months to get us our data so that we could give that to the new vendor to get it ready. So we are behind on that project as a result of their actions. So now we need to extend the contract with them so that we can continue our service while our new vendor, which now has all of our data, works on the new system. So that's the first one. Did you want me to speak on the second one as well, or?
You might as well.
The second one is the same thing, same vendor. It's just the software for the Register of Deeds side. And it's the same situation. On the Vital side, it's a flat monthly fee. On the Register of Deeds side, we gave you a projection, but those amounts are based on per document that's filed, so it's an estimate from previous months in past contracts. All the money is paid for through the tech fund on the Register of Deeds side. On the Vital side, it's budgeted as part of the Vital Records budget. And the amounts that you're approving are a renewal of the current extension, which was a drop in costs from the previous year, 5-year contract. So we're renewing at the lower rate that they gave us on the renewals of the 5-year contract in the past.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Brian. Because of the additional extension, are they charging us a premium to extend it?
So we're extending it at the same rate.
Yes.
And we'll have discussions with them later on at the end when we have to get the new data for what's happening right now, because that, as we're adding information here, that has to also be put into the new system, but won't occur until we have a go live date. Then prior to that, we have to get what we're doing now and add that into the system. There is going to be a charge for that, and we're going to address that with them at that time.
Kind of
For some
frustrating.
kind of reduction, but this renewal is at the reduced rate.
Okay. Gotta be frustrating trying to do that with a.
It's been frustrating, yes, but
Oh, well.
therein is why you all made the wise decision to accept a bid, not with them, in my personal opinion. So we're moving forward with something new, and we are excited about how they're working on it. We're excited about the progress that we see, and our relationship with them has been great so far, so.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Commissioner
Thank you, Brian.
Caravelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian, I know you stated that the second item is coming out of the Treasurer's Tech, or the Clerk's Tech Fund?
The
correct?
automation fund, yeah, tech fund, yes.
I'm asking the first one, the extension that wasn't anticipated, is coming out of the Capital Projects Fund. Is it
No, neither of these extensions, the Vital Records one comes out of our regular budget for Vital Records. It's budgeted, we pay that amount every month.
Okay,
It does not come out of the tech fund.
All right, let me back up.
Yeah.
You budgeted X amount of dollars for the new software, for this contract to end, and the new one to continue on. So you have extra monies in that fund that are unallocated then, is what you're telling us?
Well, so with Tyler Technologies, we do not begin paying for the majority of that contract until we go live with the service.
So it's going to be
So
basically
there
a
is
wash?
money, yeah, correct.
Okay, that's.
Correct. That's
That
how
clears it up for me.
that's
Okay.
how that contract was agreed upon. We have some upfront money that we have to pay, but it's a license-based, so until we're actually using those licenses, we don't even have the technology installed on our computers yet. So we're currently only paying for the development of the system. We're not paying to use that system yet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other commissioners? Just one thing, Brian and Fred, I know you're here in the audience. I want to thank you, despite this snafu, scrambling to get this contract going and keep the system online for the public. Very important services. And whenever we run into glitches, it's good to see that the public doesn't know. It's seamless, so appreciate that very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're going to take both these items since they were discussed. This is going to be for items 6B and C. I'm looking for a motion.
Just for
to
the
move-
record, we object to the term snafu.
Oh, I gotcha. All right, you got it. B and C, looking for a motion to move this to full board. Okay, B and C, I got you, joking. All right, draw that. All right, support from Commissioner Brown. We're going to do voice vote, so all those in favor of moving it to full.
Aye.
It's okay,
Did you have a comment, Commissioner
but
Kleinfeld?
it's not important, so.
Okay.
It just,
Well, next time you want to talk, you got to tell Andre sooner than that.
The only thing I was gonna say is, the center of this table's very concerned a while back was who controls our data. That's all I was gonna say. You know, with respect to all of IT, outside entities controlling some of our data. I was just gonna make mention of that. Anyway, yeah, no, it's acting weird, but it's okay.
Okay, so we're going to do a voice vote. We have a motion. All those in favor of moving this to full board, B and C, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moves to full board. Presentations, building safety update. Come on up, Brandon. Yep. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, how's everybody doing today? I understand there were, that there may be.
what you want to do. And I'm doing it
I'm
myself.
sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't on. Usually people don't complain about how my voice projects.
Yeah, you know, the thing picks it up.
So I understand that there were a few questions about our building safety program, so I wanted to stop by today and address some of those. For those of you who don't know, we have a pretty comprehensive building safety program that we are in the middle, well, near the tail end of implementing here in the county. And it consists of several things, but some of the actions that we take are we go out and we perform a security assessment on each of our buildings here in the county. And then based on that security assessment, we develop a facility emergency plan for each one of those facilities. Once the facility emergency plan is complete, we meet with key leadership from each of those facilities to make sure that key leadership understands the basics of what's in the plan and that they're brought up to speed on it. And then once key leadership is up to speed, then we come back and we schedule training sessions with all of the employees in the building so that all of the employees that are in each of our buildings are brought up to speed on the contents of their facilities' individual plan. At this point, we have the vast majority of our county facilities complete. We have over 20 of our facilities assessed, and we have facility emergency plans complete or in the process of completion for the vast majority of those facilities. And we're working on rolling out the employee training on each one of those plans so that all of our county employees are trained on what's in the plan. And this dovetails very nicely with our Employee Safety Committee initiative that we started last year. And you've probably seen some of the emails that have gone out about that, where we're offering additional training like Stop the Bleed training. We're putting Stop the Bleed kits in all of our county facilities. We're offering, we've offered a couple of self-defense courses to county employees. Things of that nature. So those all dovetail very nicely together into a comprehensive safety program for our employees here in the county.
Okay, so my computer's not working, so if anybody would like to speak, we'll start with Don here. Go ahead, Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, very good. Can we have a written report so that we understand, what the plan is? What activities you're taking, just basically summarizing in a
I would be
summary.
happy to summarize the activities for you in kind of a bullet
Just
point
so we got
format.
documentation that
Just-
we asked and you gave us
just
a
so
report.
just so that you know, and I will do that generally, and then what'll happen is during the employee briefings, each of you as county employees will be invited to those employee briefings, and you will get the full briefing on what's contained in the plan for this particular building where your
Just so if
department is
something
housed.
happens, someone says, we didn't ask, and say someone
I-
doesn't know where it is, they say, well, I didn't get the training or whatever.
I would be happy to put together some bullet points, just kind of summarizing the issues that we discussed here today.
We prefer dots, Susan Bullet.
I can do dots, stars, little circles.
All right,
Whatever
Commissioner
works.
Ha.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Brian, I'm going to ask this question very strategically.
Okay.
Are visitors allowed to carry weapons in this building? Obviously, you weren't here yesterday, and that was a very contentious issue. Visitors to this building.
I am going to defer that question to the sheriff because he's in a much better position to answer that than I
No,
am.
we just unfunded him, so he can't answer.
Oh, my whole percent.
We gave him a traverse, though.
You got it.
So, to answer your question, there is a court order signed by, at the time, Chief Circuit Court Judge Massaroni, indicated that no weapons would be allowed into the court building. Obviously, the administration building, the Old County building, and the court building are all attached. So there are metal detectors at each one of those entrance points. Now, that court order is still in effect. I know your group that was up here, there was one guy that was emailing me, wanted the metal detectors moved to the tunnel. Operationally, that would be a cost until the court order is changed. We send him, if he wanted to, or if they want to, go to the chief judge, see if he'll change it. I think if it's challenged in court, we'd probably have to get rid of all the metal detectors in these buildings except the court building, so.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
so that could be a possibility, then they could be coming up here with your guns. So.
Great.
Oh, man. Anybody else want to speak on this? Anybody else? There's something I have. I don't know if it's part of your jurisdiction or not. Might as well bring it up. I was over today at the clerk's office filing some new cases, and all the clerks were complaining about the fact of the coronavirus. And they were wondering, how they don't have enough hand sanitizers, they don't have wipes. Does this fall under your jurisdiction in terms of building safety?
Do you want me to go ahead? Okay, so yes, we've been meeting regularly to discuss county response to coronavirus. F&O currently has placed an order for both additional hand sanitizer and for sanitizing wipes, and will be working on a plan to make sure that those are distributed to county facilities. Obviously, those are quite a hot commodity these days, sure, but we do have those in transit now, and those will be getting out to departments once they come in.
And, again, they are a hot commodity and they're a limited resource. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just say this, and maybe because I'm a little biased because I go over there a lot, but the clerk's office, both the Register of Deeds and the Circuit Court section, are usually the front line to just about everything that comes in from the public.
Yeah, and I can tell you, we actually discussed that very issue this morning, and looking at areas in the county, there are facilities that are mostly just county employees in the facilities. There are facilities that handle a great amount of traffic from the public. Those are the kind of facilities we would be targeting to get those materials out to, because those are the facilities where if there's any kind of infection, and I don't want to just talk coronavirus in this case, these are good practices for infectious disease control in general. These are things that we should be doing. We need to get those materials out to facilities that have a higher concentration of people, have a higher risk of people coming in who may have traveled to areas outside of our area, things like that. So all of those things are being considered when we're deciding on the placement of those materials.
All right, so it sounds like you're on top of it. I appreciate that very much, Brandon. Anybody else? Any other commissioners have any other comments here? Brown, go ahead. Second round.
So that raises an interesting point. We should probably have a report from a separate agenda item talking about the county's preparedness for this, how we're going to continue operations throughout the county, not just. So that's something we need ASAP, I would think, given the
Point of
current.
information, don't we have a meeting on Monday regarding this?
There
coming up,
is.
right?
There is a meeting for all county
To
leaders on
discuss all of
Monday
this.
to discuss, and one of the issues that we will be discussing is continuity of operations for county departments. The county has a very extensive continuity of operations plan that spells out how county departments should continue to operate in the event that they are short-staffed or have to relocate outside of their primary facility or any of those things. So we will be reiterating with departments what the appropriate actions to take are under their continuity of operations plan.
But it'll need to be amended in the light of the current situation, though, correct?
Well, there are specific issues that we will need to discuss with departments in light of the current situation. But generally speaking, our plans are all hazard plans, and they are designed to be implemented in the event that any hazard it befalls Macomb County that would require us to implement continuity of operations plans. So there will be some specific discussion on actions that can be taken relative, again, infectious disease, including coronavirus, but the plan is designed in a way that it can be implemented for any emergency issue that faces a Macomb County department, and department heads and staff have been instructed to review those plans already, so they should start to have a pretty good idea going in of what those actions are.
How about a public relations drive right now that lets the public know that these are the steps we're taking, and beyond that, what services are available online to negate the fact that they need to come out to a county place where a lot of people congregate. A lot of the services we have are available online. Clerk's office has been a leader in that for years, and there's probably more than we even know. And not just our department, but throughout. Yes, so there's so that's another area that I suggest we do and do it, very properly. I'm glad to see the executive was out, I think the other day or 2 days ago, with information about steps we should take, and that's good. But going beyond that, perhaps some more PR on what we're doing, what services are available. And we could all help in this spreading the message, because getting accurate, clear information is key right now to the public, and we could help with that, I think.
And we're addressing that on two sides. There is significant public information going out, a lot of it going out through the health department, directing the public to resources that are available to help combat the spread of infectious disease.
How are they getting that out? Because I haven't seen it.
There have been several press releases, from what I understand. There's an entire portion of their website dedicated to response to infectious disease and coronavirus through social media. There's been fairly significant outreach, but we can always continue.
What about
to
social
push that.
media? Doing old school stuff doesn't work these days. Sending to the paper is limited reach.
We've done press releases, we've done social media, we've gotten out in several different
All right,
media.
well, I'd be interested to see all that you've done.
All right,
Thank you.
just one thing. How soon do you think we'll see the hand sanitizers and all the stuff in the clerk's office? Just out of curiosity, or in the other departments that need it?
They have an estimated delivery time of later this week, but that's an estimated delivery time.
Later this week is Friday.
And then there will need to be, distribution will need to take place. So
Okay, but it's safe to say by next week.
I would think that discussion will at least be going on by next week, yes.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Anybody else? Okay. All right, thank you, Brandon, appreciate it. Keep an eye on the news and not on your 401k, okay?
I stopped watching that a while ago.
Yeah, we do. We need a motion to receive and file. Carabelli, supported by Sauger. All those in favor? We don't need them. It's just a receive and file. All right. Do we? All right. All those in favor of receiving it?
Aye.
All right. Anybody opposed? Okay. All right, let's move on now to the big enchilada, presentation 7B, county jail. I assume it's you, Sheriff Vicky, who? Yeah.
The Joint Task Force. Yeah, there you go. Combating crime.
Good afternoon. Just by way of history, obviously, you all know that last year we were here pitching a new jail law enforcement complex for the sheriff's office. Coming before this board and getting the board approval, facility that you approved was about a 1,500 bed facility with a price tag of, I think estimation was right around $380 million that you guys approved to move forward. Over the past 2 years, there's been changes in the criminal justice system, and our population has been declining. December 2018, usually in December, the population goes down just due to the holidays and the workload of the judges, and usually January, February, the population starts to increase. In 2018, we didn't see that. 2019, we didn't see that. Our facility could hold 1,238 inmates if we were full. If we had the proper staff, we could house 1,438. But we were running right around 900 or less. So today we are at 848, and with, again, changes, alternatives, judges are putting more people in the treatment on tether, and they're not being incarcerated at the rate that they were. So we went back to the drawing board, and we're back here with what we believe is a scaled down, a good version of what we would need for the next 20, 30 years as it relates to the jail and the sheriff's office, kind of a law enforcement complex, if we could look at it from that point of view. So with that, I'll just go through some slides. So with this new construction, we went from over 1,500. The design capacity of the new facility would be 1,034. Again, at today's standards, we're at 848. So if this facility was to open up today, we still have a couple hundred beds to work with. If the population starts to spike and increase, we have the ability to double bunk and add an additional 104 beds, which would give this facility the total rated design capacity of 1,138 beds. If, for some reason, the population starts taking off again into the future, future leaders, sheriffs would have the ability to add up to an additional 400 beds right next door to it, without increasing any of the infrastructure. It would already be in place. Kitchen, laundry, medical would be able to accommodate an additional 400 inmates. Total cost to build this, we'll say, 1,034 bed facility is $303,225,772. So what does the new construction consist of? Again, new facility, 10 stories with a basement. New sheriff's office, which would be 3 stories, which would be next door. Design capacity would have 84 medical beds, 78 mental health beds in that total number of 1,034. If needed, additional housing capacity, double bunking, that additional 104. It gives us that new medical, mental health, skilled nursing facility, which hopefully would reduce us sending people to McLaren Hospital. It would have the new central intake and assessment that we've talked about over the years. Again, new infrastructure could be constructed without any additional major modifications. It moves us again to the direct supervision, increase that safety and security for inmate population and staff. And again, it has that mini jail design where there's recreation, programs, medication distribution, classes, everything on one floor. We reduce the amount of people that we have to move around the facility. Big question, and I see Commissioner Romano's not here, was about staffing. If we look at today's facility, and if we were at maximum staff or maximum inmates at 1,238, we've talked about that the sheriff's office and the staffing of the county jail isn't properly staffed. It hasn't been properly staffed in over 20-some years. So our staffing analysis would indicate that to properly staff all of the positions, and also looking at time off, whether it be vacation, sick time, comp time, what would be the appropriate number of staff you would need to, again, properly staff, fill the positions, and have minimal overtime. So at 1,238, we would need, we would need an additional lieutenant and 7 sergeants to properly supervise in a facility of our size. But we would need an additional 45 correctional deputies to properly staff. Now, when we move over to a new facility with a rated design capacity of 1,138, we would only need to add 17 more corrections deputies to properly staff that new facility. Again, asking for 7 supervisors and 1 more lieutenant to properly supervise that staff. So if we had the appropriate resources currently, and we were going to open up a new facility, I would be able to say to this board that yes, this new facility is going to be more efficient, it's going to save on staffing, and it's going to save on overtime. So, as you can see, there are community corrections positions that we are looking at, 14 positions. we would need currently in 14 for the new facility to properly do pretrial services and give the judges good information on who's going to stay in jail and who's not. So here's where the financial information comes in. The construction is $303,225,772. Adding the staff of $3.9 million. We got somebody didn't do the math right. Oh yeah, that's right. 307, 138, 597. Now financing this new project, it'd be a 20-year bond, and I would have finance talk that the construction financing would only be $299,500,000. What the ask would be from the voters in August would be 0.64 mils. And again, an average cost homeowner with taxable value of $100,000 would be $64 a year. Obviously, there's our current facility from an aerial shot. That would be the new facility with the current facility in there. We take out an overhead view. We'll remove the facility once it's built, move all the inmates over. The new facility would be demolished, and we would have additional green space, retention pond, and parking. There's the jail, and next to it would be the sheriff's office. And essential services, records, detectives. A different view of it. And with that, was there?
Yeah, I just want
Oh,
to.
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Thanks, Sheriff. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I just wanted to address some of the questions that you had before, and then we can get to your questions. But you had questions regarding use of the JJC facility. We did go out and look at the JJC facility. I know we talked about that. Obviously, there's issues today with that facility being utilized. And so right now that availability is not there. We considered areas, obviously something in the future. There's a potential for it, but it's very small. There's things that would have to be renovated there and ideal to suit any other options that we wanted to do within that facility and the size of it. But we did take a look at that as part of this process. We talked about maintenance issues. You asked for that, so we asked Lynn from F&O to prepare a list. We just picked 5 years out, so that was provided in the packet. You have a list of the different maintenance issues that we believe that are forthcoming. I believe in the memo she outlined some of the things that do need to be taken care of now, whether a new jail is built or not, such as the security doors, I believe that are planned. They're trying to break those down. And there's other areas too that they're looking at, they might be getting pricing on, but we are carefully considering whether or not, should this vote be successful, on whether those actually need to be replaced at the time that they fail. So you do have that list in the packet. And then we also talk about, we did break down the millage for you within the packet between the operating and the construction costs for that. I know there was talk too, we're at 0.64. Obviously, this was our presentation today. We talked about coming back with final numbers in April. One of our concerns that we have now that everybody has is the volatility of the market. So there could be some potential for change for that. We're still waiting on final assessment numbers to come in. But in our conversations as a team and as recent with Steve, and I'm not sure if Steve Adair is here for more detailed questions that I don't know. If we're talking about a change right now, unless something drastic happens, we're really talking about potentially going from 0.64 to maybe 0.65. So we're not talking a drastic change from this month to the next for what you will see in the final numbers next month. And I believe the last item to cover before we get to your questions is, I know there were questions about the use of the tether program in the county. And I know I asked the question, got a response back. not understanding what I was asking for. So I asked Barb Caskey, who does understand that much better, to come up and just talk to you and explain a little more, because that information wasn't exactly accurate on how the tether program works throughout the county and in other areas. So I'd just like Barb to say a few words.
Good afternoon. I brought some numbers with me in terms of who we supervise on tether right now and who we did a year ago. As you can imagine, with the decrease in the population at the jail, all of community corrections programs have drastically increased. The tether program is one that has seen about a 25% increase in enrollment over what we have previously and what we have now. That is still, I think currently today we had 41 individuals that are being supervised by the tether program. But I think it's important to understand that there's a very small population that's appropriate for tether supervision. It's expensive, it's very expensive. It's one of the things that we have a small amount of money that we have allocated in our budget to be able to assist individuals with. But you also need to find somebody who is a very low risk of non-compliance. In order to be compliant on a tether, you have to charge it every day. You have to have a home and a stable address to be able to charge it. You have to pay those fees that are incurred with it, and not violate the rules of compliance that come along with that particular tether. So if it's a GPS, you have to stay within those zones. If it's a scram, you have to not use alcohol, things of that nature. So it's a very, very small targeted population that tethers are actually appropriate to use. So if there's any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And if anyone wants to wear one, our vendors are happy to provide those for any time for you. So.
You know, so I'm going to tell you, my system doesn't show me who wants to speak here, so.
If you hit the details, we're showing up under the technology.
Yeah, okay, go through the technology one, that's exactly what's showing up. Yeah, okay, so it looks like Commissioner Brown is on first here, so, go ahead.
Do you have documentation on all the stats you just gave us regarding the tether program and how many uses there are? And
Yes,
which
yes, we track
judges
that
use it?
regularly, yes.
Will you please, I'd be just curious to see it.
Yeah, I can put that
Just give me
together
a
for you.
sense of that.
Sure.
Thank you for providing the information. That was one of my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, not a
And the other
problem.
one too, Vic, you answered. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm done.
You're welcome. Chairman Smith. You want to go down the list? Okay, Commissioner Dujay.
Thank you. I don't want to know anything about a tether. If you guys know about it, that's fine and dandy. Question on the new jail. Are there going to be any systems, any things that will be able to be carried over from the old one to the new one? And why I'm asking is if we, let's say, invest in new doors that we need, are we going to be able to reuse them in the new place or not?
No, the only thing that we're going to be able to take is our most important asset, and those are our workers, our employees.
Nice answer. All right. All right. I don't imagine any of that's going to be worth much of anything. Keep going. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. Well, it does seem like there'd be a significant, like scrap metal. I know that when we demolished a building and built a new one, the scrap metal from ours, which was a much smaller building, was significant. So I would think there are things that you could remove and sell. Well, you can't because you got the inmates in there. Okay. And unless and until you, they took that into account. Is that?
They're saying that the contractor would reduce their price because they would get those materials.
Was that taken into account with these numbers? Is that?
Yes, yes. That's normally a salvage cost that a demolition contractor builds into their proposal. So.
Okay, so it's already built in. Okay, I'm curious, you're going down to 17 guys, but you still need the 7 supervisory. That number didn't change. I don't have the, hold on.
Yeah.
I have it
We
in here.
staff the facility with command officers. And what we don't have, with the exception of about 3 or 4 corrections deputies that are actually command officers, they've not gone through the police department. We have a rotating supervision. So a sergeant one day could be working the road, he could work, or she could work the front desk, or they could be assigned to the jail. And it kind of flips on a daily basis. We're filling a lot. They're also looked at the aspect of, time off for command officers. They're your more senior employees. They have more time off. So to properly staff inside the facility, we would ask for 7 additional sergeants that would be assigned to the jail only.
So the number going from 45 down to 17 for correctional deputies has no bearing on the number of sergeants?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Couple questions. I assume, I don't think you said it in your presentation, but I assume the new design is implementing direct supervision, right? That was a big thing
Yeah,
that
I
we
did.
talked about last time.
I think it was one of the bullet
Okay,
points.
so
Yeah,
definitely
it's
direct supervision.
yep.
Okay. So I got a little bit of another question, and I don't know if you can get it up on your screen there, Tony, but, when you were here last time and we were talking about building the first proposed project, I'm going to put you on record a little bit. You had said, look, I don't want to be the sheriff that didn't build too many beds. I'm not going to be the one that a couple years from now we were told we built a smaller structure. And now it appears, and I think you and I are both happy, there's less people in jail. And now it appears we're going to build this now revised structure on the premise that we're probably not going to have as many people in jail. But you and I both know, because you work on the law enforcement and I sort of deal with it as an attorney, is that we just really don't know what could happen. We could end up finding ourselves having more people. So can you explain a little bit about what you mean if those 400 additional beds were going to be added on? Where would that be in this design? And I think you got this top overview.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a good one to start.
Right here.
Okay, I can't tell. Would it be where the trees are there, a little bit south of?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Can you see the pointer or no?
We can't.
Oh, all
no.
right. Yeah, if you're looking down on it, it'd be to the left.
Okay.
Yep.
So it'd be like the southwest corner, kind of? Yep.
Well,
okay.
right in the middle.
All right.
It would
Now,
attach.
I think in your presentation you said there wouldn't be any additional, there would be additional cost, obviously, for a structure to be built there to accommodate the new beds.
Yes.
But what we're building now would integrate into that new structure for kitchen, for mental health, and all that other stuff. Is that correct?
Exactly, right. We would not have to increase the infrastructure to handle 400 additional inmates for food service, for medical or mental health facilities. If you're going to add 400 beds, you're probably going to have to add some additional staff. That would have to be figured out at some point in the process.
Also, it used to be where we used to be able to allow a work release, and that kind of stopped, I think, because of staff and, well, not attorneys, but but any event. In this new design, would those kind of programs be allowed to be coming back or not? What's your thoughts?
Well, it would be something that we could take a look at. With the current facility and the current population at 800, it was something we would have to discuss with the judges. Again, one of the problems that we have, and I think I've said this before, is there's a lot of inmates that are on what's called weekend status. They come in every Friday, 50 of them, drive by anytime between 6 and 8, and you'll see them all out front smoking. We have to process those 50 in. They stay for the weekend, and we process them out on Sunday. But you're also going to find those 50 when they come in, probably under the influence, high, probably trying to bring in some drugs. We've had them drop in our lobby, overdose in the lobby. So,
That's a problem for you. I can understand it. Yeah, that's
It's
a problem for you.
So
That really is.
Running the work release program, I know all the judges, and anytime I'm out there and talking, they would love that. It's a great program to keep a defendant working. The family doesn't get penalized, but again, when these guys and gals go out and come back, you don't know what they're coming back in with or inside of them.
So it seems like that might be more of a, I guess, like a staffing issue. The design, I guess the question I had, maybe wasn't clear, is, and I understand where you're coming from, Sheriff, because you got to take everything that comes off the street. I get that.
Yeah.
And that the design of this structure, though, if those programs were to be re-implemented, and if we had the proper staff to handle that, this would be, you could do it.
We could within there take a section of that facility which would be designated the work release, and again, coming and going, making sure they're searched, they're brought right up, and they don't have any other interaction with the other inmates in the general population. from that incident.
And your office, the sheriff's, the building off to the in the northeast corner.
The sheriff's office.
Yep,
yeah.
the sheriff's office. Is there going to be any tunnel between the two? Just underground
No,
tunnel?
we'll have to walk outside. We're okay.
Okay, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I have nothing
Little
further.
weather.
Nothing further. Oh, I'm sorry. Carabelli.
Thank you, Leonetti. When you had mentioned 14 community correction staff, is that at 14 additional?
Yes.
Additional to what number?
Careful, Barb.
To the 31.5 plus 14 more?
Yeah, it's 17.5 currently. 5.5 of those are pretrial. So those additional number of staff would all be pretrial staff. So that would be 2 shifts of pretrial risk assessors as well as individuals who are supervising those that are in the community in programs on a pretrial basis.
And this would be the intake, what's the word?
Yeah, assessing the individual and developing a risk, whether they need to stay or they can be, sent somewhere else.
Okay. All right.
Or giving a judge good information on setting a bond for an individual.
Okay. That's all I had for that part of it. Thank you. You said something in the beginning 3 times when you first came up. And I don't know if maybe I just took it the wrong way, but you said the jail the board approved. And you said the jail the board approved, and then again, the jail the board, well, the board approved the recommendation of the sheriff
Sure.
that came forward with this because we trusted you, your expertise, your staff's expertise, and then your professionals that you had hired. And I have all the faith in what you're doing and the people you've hired to do it. Now, I'm not as warm and fuzzy. I want
That's
to be
fine.
honest with you. I know we need a new jail. 100%. Is it to wait another 6 months to see if another program comes out? I know we need a new jail, and I'm looking at this, and our recommendations were for direct site supervision, I think it was called. And when I looked at the plan, it had doors with windows on it, and I'm thinking, well, how is this direct site supervision? The stuff isn't adding up, and I guess I'll ask that question again. Is this new plan have direct site supervision, and are they doors that are solid with a little window on them?
Yes.
And how is
But
it?
direct supervision is the officer is inside the unit, right here. I'm watching each one of you. At time when you go to bed, you go and you close your door and you go to bed. And there's a window there. But I'm right here. I'm not in the court building looking at my phone, doing some other work, and coming back an hour later to make sure you're okay. That is direct supervision.
Sort of as a point of information, Jim, it's like having the teacher in the classroom. It's not like
No,
having the teacher
I
outside.
understand. When they said
Right.
direct site, with a
So,
door with a window, throws
With
me
the
off.
exception of the midnight shift, the doors will be open.
Okay.
The inmate will go in to sleep, close the door, but the officer is there in close proximity. You start banging or rustling around, I hear it. I'm right there.
Okay.
That is direct supervision.
Okay. And the last thing I have on this, the cost reduction of the size of the beds, it looks like from the pictures that are presented to us, pretty simple materials that are being used. Not that you had granite floor in the place before, and I'm not going to say you did, but it's all as frugal as possible on everything that we're doing.
As frugal as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Bologna sandwich fruit.
I'm okay with that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Sheriff and Vicki, for the presentation. Appreciate it. The questions I've got are, well, first question might be for Vicki, it might be for Steve, and so sorry about that.
That's
but
okay.
The question is, what does the county do in a circumstance? Let's suppose that the cost estimate ends up not being as accurate as we'd like. Other projects in other counties and our own counties sometimes end up not being the as precise as we'd like in the estimate. And if there's an overrun, that's a reasonably significant overrun, how does the county deal with that? Does it come out of the general fund, the fund balance? What do we do if the jail costs 25% more than the estimate?
And is beyond the contingencies that are built into the project? Because there are contingencies built in to the project already. There's different percentages that are used for different pieces of the project. And one thing that we did prior to coming back to and looking at these estimates is our consultants went out and they actually had a construction management firm that's currently working on other jail projects take a look at our estimates to make sure they're current as the market today and a jail being built. And our estimates were very close and comparable with what is in the market today. So those are two of the things that I can at least offer from that perspective.
But materials might change significantly in a year or two. We don't know. And we know that other projects that we've done to bond for in the county end up costing sometimes significantly more than we bonded for or anticipated. So I just don't know how we handle that financially if it's significantly different from what we anticipate, either because materials change or the market changes for labor significantly or for whatever reason.
I'll just jump in here. Sorry, Vicki. Mike Malone with Partners in Architecture, and our cost model incorporates a few contingencies. Actually, there's a design and estimating contingency for things that are not yet defined, or a specific material, or so forth. And there's also there's an escalation factor in there for when we project the project to start construction, and then we also have a construction contingency. So that's about as good as we can do on a typical construction project at this stage in the game. Who knows what the market's going to be like in 12 months?
So
but
I guess I'm wondering what happens if all of that fails. I mean, we've had contingencies on other projects in this county that would end up not covering the overruns. So if all that fails, I mean, this is not really specifically to you. It might be to Steve, or just financially, what do we do in that circumstance?
Well, sure, but during the design phases, as we define exactly all the bits and pieces that go into this particular building, we're going to be doing updated cost estimates along the way.
Okay.
So if we find out that while we're really trending higher, we need to revisit something, we need to shrink something, we need to change the material or so forth, phase it differently or whatever, to get it back in check. I mean, our goal is obviously to deliver the project within the budget.
Yeah.
And as long as we can trend these costs along the way, which we're not just going to wait to the end and then find out what the contractors are going to tell us.
No, I think that's all good things, but what if it doesn't work like it didn't work, not with your firm, but with other projects the county has done over time, and it happens in other municipalities too?
Right, then those projects would have to be brought back to the board, and generally we'd have to go back into the general fund, the rainy day fund, and look at taking that out. But again, as we go through the process, it is approved by the voters in August and then the bid documents go out. Right, there's all those checks and balances in place. Obviously, if for some reason we were way off the mark, which I don't believe we are, and the bids come back and it's over our number already, we're not going to sign a contract. I mean, we're going to have to figure it out at that point, and there's no money going out the door then. And then, as Mike alluded to, all through the steps of the project, you're managing that and watching it. And not saying it can't happen, but yes, worst case scenario then, we'd have to look for other ways to fund that and see where we're at. And more than likely, it would be coming out of the general fund. Okay, so I appreciate that answer. I just wanted to know what the potential contingencies are or concerns might be. I think everybody here is aware that I think that it's unlikely that the millage is going to be approved personally. And I think that we should be moving now toward a plan B, because I agree with you that we need a new facility. We need to address the facility, that it's not adequate as it currently is, but that we're going to end up having to find a way to do it without the millage being approved potentially. So I want to make that clear. I also like to thank, though, the work that you've done and that the sheriff has done in working to try to bring this proposal's cost down and so forth. So thank you for addressing the questions that we have and for the work you're doing on the project. I just wish the board, as a whole, we would move and say, we need to go to a plan B and build it over time because I don't
think that's what we're going to end up having to do. Thank you. Oh, and
Thank
by
you.
the way, before I because
Sure.
after everyone's done with this issue, I just have a question to the sheriff, not really the specific issue, but what happens if the coronavirus strikes at the jail, the current jail? Do we have? And I don't want to take everybody off topic right now, but what do we do with inmates in that circumstance?
So what we'll do is, we're screening for the coronavirus.
Okay.
But you know what? We're more worried about HIV, tuberculosis, which has happened, Hep C, Hep A. Those people come through the doors every day.
Okay, so you've got.
So we've got a plan, and yes, we're on it.
Great, thank you very much. Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's probably the safest place to be, Leon, if you want to go there. All right. Chairman Smith.
I'm sure the sheriff could find you a bed.
Quarantine for 14 days.
Thank you. So to kind of address Commissioner Drolette's concern about cost overruns, a lot of those happen, not always, but mostly they happen in change orders and additions in a project. And in a jail, you're not saying, well, we need to upgrade to this kind of cabinets. I'm guessing that, we're pretty much set with what we're ordering. A lot of those change orders are what cause a lot of things to get pricier down the line. So I don't anticipate an awful lot of change orders. And this is, but, so I have a couple of questions. Sheriff, I just have to ask, I visited St. Clair County's jail, and it's a relatively newer jail, and it's direct supervision. I got a chance, and a few of the commissioners did back in the day, to talk to them. You've been out there, I'm guessing this is probably
it's
a
been a
dumb
while,
question.
but yeah.
So their direct supervision is a little different, and I understand why Commissioner Carabelli was asking, and I guess I'll just ask it in a different way. They're, at least the areas, wings, whatever you call them, that we were at, they were kind of behind glass, even in their bunks, right? So they had bunks that you could see even when the officer was in the area, which, I love the direct supervision, but he could see basically everything going on at all times. And I think that's kind of the question on there's probably different levels or different, like direct supervision probably takes on, it's not just one specific thing. And so I'm asking if you guys have looked at that type, or if there's a reason for different types of direct supervision. We talked to a few of the corrections officers that were there prior to direct supervision and after direct supervision. And of course, this, they all thought that people were nuts, and then they realized that it's actually a really good thing. It causes a lot less inmate altercations. There's less altercations with the corrections officers. It's surprising, but the guy was like, I can't believe how good this works, right? So my question is, when we were there, you could sit at the officer's desk and kind of see everything. What's the difference or the problem with that, or why do we have? And I'm sorry.
Yeah,
do you know?
What,
or
I can't speak on the St. Clair County thing. I'd have to go back and refresh my memory.
Yeah.
It's been,
I'm just telling you, it was kind of a fishbowl
but
type of thing, right? So
and what you said is what we saw when we went on our trips around the country and saw direct supervision. All of the direct supervision had doors with the windows.
Okay.
And that
no,
was,
that's what I've only seen one.
That was the standard, and every one of the officers, when we asked them, said, yeah, it's a lot better than.
No doubt that it's a lot
yeah,
better.
so.
But my question was, I don't know if you remember or if you've seen that one, and it was just a unique. It just seemed like an open campus kind of thing, and maybe even leads to less.
Again, not knowing where exactly you guys went and what you saw. Is the whole jail designed like that? Was that the dormitory style? Was it a different?
Yeah, we saw a bunch of the different
security.
wings.
That's.
It wasn't maximum for sure.
But that's what I'm saying.
It was a general population wing.
A lot of that. Questions I'd have to ask or see.
And it's just a thought because we're still in we haven't put any shovels to the ground yet or even got that far. It's just one of those things that maybe there's even a better step for direct supervision that makes it less costly to build and even maybe more safe. I don't know. I just wanted to point that out. So the part of the millage, Vicki, and I know it's in here somewhere, but you said part of the millage is for the staffing, the extra staffing?
Correct.
And how is that, so how many staff is that for? And then is that just last the length of the millage, and then at the end of it, the county would be on the line for the wages of the extra staff, or would we look at, I mean, obviously it's a long way down the line, but are we thinking in the future about a operating millage, or?
The current proposal covers 39 positions, the same amount as with the current proposal in front of you, so 100% of the new positions.
And that covers them for how long?
For the length of the proposed millage.
Okay.
So after that, there would have to be
Something done for?
something else done, or that would really be a decision for the stakeholders.
And that's only for the extra staff, correct? It's not for the complete staff of the jail. And I don't know, I mean, I would like to see it for the complete staff, and then it would give more money for other things that you guys would need out there, but that's just my thought. So the mental health beds, I mean, obviously some of the reason that we're gonna need less beds is because we're doing a little better vetting in the intake process, and some people will need to get mental health help, but no matter what, there's still gonna be the same amount of people. So when we lower the amount of beds in the jail, do we correlate that with the amount that we need for now mental health? Or how does that work, right? I mean, because these people have to go somewhere and, not back out on the street. So I missed our,
and again, one of the questions I think that Commissioner Romano was looking at is, well, how can we be at 848, and we're gonna build 1034? Why do we need more staffing? We really shouldn't have to have more staffing, right? We should be able to cover that, what we're doing. But if you just take a floor at the current facility that can hold up to 168 inmates, let's just say women, but if I only have 120 women, I still have to staff that, even though that number is a lot less. And when you start adding that up, yeah, you're down 300-400 inmates, but because of classifications, separation, putting people in the mental health ward, we have to staff those as full staff.
I'm not concerned about the staff, Sheriff. I'm more concerned about, is there enough mental health beds to take that diversion over there? That's my main concern, because those people
That's what we've been working on the last couple of years, as far as, the numbers for the mental health.
Got it.
Would stay the same. The general populations where we took floors off and reduced.
Okay. And I'll say we're all happy to have seen those studies come out, because I know that the expert that you were working with in the past had kind of said that he thinks that this is going to come down, and I remember the central intake was going to be the big telltale sign on where things were going, and that maybe the population was going to come down. So I'm glad that nothing got done before we got to the point of seeing this trend go in the right direction. So thank you.
Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to speak again a second time. Two things. We don't have currently outdoor recreation there, do we?
Well, we do have a rec yard on the top of the jail, but I just don't have the staff. You'd have to take everybody up the elevator, put them out there, watch them. So what they do now is
Are we going to have outdoor recreation with the new
Yep.
one?
Each corner has outdoor recreation in it where they can walk out and.
And that is not on top of the building, that's down on?
That's on each floor.
It's on each floor.
Each floor has its own access to recreation programs, services.
And
so-
they're outdoor?
Yep.
Okay. And the other thing is, we bought, I can't remember if it was one or two, very expensive body scanners. So I was surprised when you were talking about the weekend people in the trouble, because I think we paid like $800,000 or something.
$250.
Oh, I thought it was more than that. Did we got one?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a lot more than that. How is that working?
It's working.
Okay, are we going to have that in the new facility?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, but we're not going to take the one over that's there?
Okay, so I forgot. We could take that one if it's still operational.
Okay. Also, the
So
kitchen.
all of the valued employees and the metal detector.
The
are gonna
metal
walk in the
detectors,
store.
and think
You know
about
what?
those kitchen kettles we just bought too.
You know what? If the
Thank
chairs
you.
are in still good shape, we'll take the chairs next door too.
Thank you.
We'll do whatever we
Appreciate
can
it.
to cut the
Because
cost.
those kettles, how much are those kettles? I wanted to go into the jail kettle business when we found out about those kettles. So, anyway, thank you.
All right, so Commissioner Hall, who's not on the list, he's been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
I was going to say thank you, Chair, but after that comment, I'm not. Tony, I want to break my questions down into 3 categories. There was a comment made about cost overruns. Every project anticipates them, expects them, but after 2 years in the planning, if not more, on this particular project, I'm sure you and your team and Vicki and the architects are going to assure there's not going to be anything substantial as it applies to cost overruns.
We would work hard at that, and nights I wake up and with the nightmares on this project too, and if there's a way of putting some type of clause in there that it won't exceed this, and, you know, force the contractors and builders to stay within budget, you know, I'd love to see that done on. But that's out of my expertise.
If this millage passes, and I know my colleague down there wants to look at a Plan B, but he was the one that predicted DIA was going to fail, so at least you got a 50-50 chance as it comes to him.
By the way, I'll go, what's the over-under?
All right. No betting.
No betting. You had indicated that there was a savings of some 50,000 hours of OT, even with the additional resources. That was on one of the slides.
We had finance work those numbers.
Well, I can see who you can blame then. Schmiegel's not here.
The question was regarding the number of hours of overtime?
Yeah, there was an indication on one of the slides of a 50,000 hours of OT being saved once the new resources have been acquired.
Right, and that's because of a combination of direct supervision along with the fact that we're going to be filling additional positions, even though it's less than what we would need now. The 50,000 hours of overtime is getting reduced because we have proper staffing. So we won't need to do forced overtime and just other accumulations of overtime for as much sick time and vacation time and so forth that we need to do now. We'll still have some, of course. It's not eliminating all of it, but we estimate it to be 50,000.
Is there a dollar amount that you can put to that?
Yeah, it varies, of course, by year, but in the first year, we were estimating that to come in right around about $2.5 million. If you look at this sheet here in your packet, which I have labeled as page 32, it shows that on the personnel cost, the new personnel cost, and then the amount we're projecting to save as a result of overtime. As you can see, it varies by year, so that's why I'm saying, you know, in the first year, of course, will grow with inflation through the years when people are being paid at those points. But that's at the start, that's what we're estimating.
But the question I'm asking is that manpower resource savings reflected in the additional headcount that you're looking for?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah, we have the additional manpower from the new positions, so we no longer need those overtime hours. Is that what you're asking,
That's what
Commissioner?
I'm asking.
Got it.
Okay, thank you. And my last subject, our tether person.
Yes.
You had indicated, I thought I heard, since this was my question to Vicki, and she thinks she got it wrong, but she wasn't too far off.
That's pretty good.
That we currently have 48 people on tether in Macomb County?
41, and that is through
41.
41, but that is through our department under pretrial supervision. So
Okay.
there are lots of others individuals who are on probation services, both through circuit and district court, under their supervision. So that would be for sentenced individuals that are outside of us.
Okay, so the county has 41 under our supervision.
Under pretrial,
And
yes.
I'm familiar with the tethers and the SoberLink. You had indicated that it was very expensive.
It is.
Putting somebody on tether. What's the correlation between somebody on tether for a day and somebody being in jail for a day? Because I know the cost, because the sheriff had told us,
Yes.
the cost of being in jail for a day was somewhere around $88.
It is exponentially more expensive to be incarcerated, or the daily rate of incarceration. However,
that was
indiv-
my point when I raised
Yes.
the issue, how we need to take advantage of all of these new methodologies and
Right.
technologies. And you commented that it's difficult to have the bad person charging the tether, having a home residency,
Right.
and following the protocol. They don't follow the protocol, they end up back in jail.
Yes.
So I understand the difficulty of it. My contention is, and I know this subject very well, is we're not using full advantage of reducing our jail population with these types of programs being made available.
Right. Just a little historical perspective on that. It was about, what, 5 or 6 years ago? We got together with a number of the district court judges, and the sheriff we sort of developed our own sheriff's program for tether that community corrections was supervising along with sheriff's personnel. And that was intended for individuals to be in the community as part of a sentencing effort. And if they were non-compliant with that, then we would immediately have a sheriff's car dispatched to go pick them up and bring them back. We met with probably at least a half a dozen district court judges that were very interested in it. That program fizzled out in about 9 months because of the lack of referrals to it. So what we heard from our bench was that if they have an individual that they think is high risk enough to need tether supervision, they're going to lock them up. If they think that they're appropriate for community supervision, then it's going to be things like drug testing, outpatients, telephone reporting, things of that nature, probation. But it just really wasn't utilized by the judges that were even interested in it at the very beginning.
And I can tell you the reason for that, because I was part of it 6 years ago. The judges don't want the burden of having to collect the fees from the bad person, so they will incarcerate them and put the burden on the county. So and Jim, I'm looking at you here because we've had discussions about meeting with the judges and saying, are we utilizing every available option other than putting people in jail, and the cost being absorbed by the county for certain jails.
And under
certain
that
courts, not jails.
Under that program, we did all the middleman work. We
Right.
dealt with the collection of fees. We dealt with the only thing that the judges had to do was to sign the order to the program and then get a letter saying they either completed or we picked them back up and they were in jail again. So we did make it very easy. I think it was just from their perspective, finding that population that was a right fit for that. I agree with you. There are a lot of individuals that might be appropriate for tether that we could look at. We would need increased financial assistance for those individuals.
And I would mention too, the last check I made, Wayne County has 1,888 people on tether.
They do.
And we have 41.
Yes,
So
and there's
something's not balancing with the criminal justice system and how the process is being applied.
I am well aware of the Wayne County program and also aware of a lot of the criticism that the program comes under because of the individuals that are eligible and appropriate or not, but are still involved in that program.
Well, and I appreciate, and I know Tony did do that, go around to the judges and say, hey, I've got to get my population down. You have to start applying some of these technologies in order for me to meet my goals. We talked cost overruns. We want to assure that we don't escalate back up to a number where it's going to cost more than what we're going to get when the millage passes, and see what happens then. So thank you.
No problem. And just on a side note, like we've never seen the amount of alternative sentencing being utilized by our courts as we are now. We have individuals that are really being given an opportunity to prove themselves in treatment and in different kind of supervision programs at a much higher rate. So in terms of utilizing different types of programs, we're at a really good place right now. There can always be more, but we're seeing a lot of that right now. So
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you, Barb, too. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you. On the question of the mental health beds, is there a number of beds, Sheriff, that they're building for the diversion program? What's the capacity there?
Current or the new one?
No, I know current is not enough, but what's the new jail? Would that
78 mental health beds.
78? Okay. That seems like a lot of. You comfortable with that?
Yes.
Obviously, you're comfortable that you brought it forward, but the finance department, what's the cost of the finance the bond? What's the payments on that bond? Monthly or annual?
So these are all very preliminary figures, of course, but as we've quoted them out right now, the total debt service on the bond is going to be starting at $16,707,850. That's a 3% rate with a likely, pardon me, that's being quoted at between 2 and 3%. It's a range of interest rates.
16 million per year on the financing?
I'm sorry?
On the financing, 16 million per year?
It's total principal and interest.
16 million?
Well, what's the payment?
Yeah, what's the payment?
Yeah, the debt service.
Annual bond payment?
Yeah.
No. That's interesting. It's actually the number I have in front of me, but I don't believe that's correct.
That doesn't sound right.
No, it's too low. Okay. I wish it was 16 million.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, I'll have to get that to you.
Okay.
This schedule does not appear to have that on there. I can tell you that I'll give you some overall numbers on it, at least.
Just keep in mind, before you go ahead, too, we're going to have more financial information at the next meeting,
Yeah,
from what I
absolutely.
understand, too, yeah.
Yeah, the total bond issue account, I know someone had mentioned that it's only, I think the sheriff actually mentioned, $299,500,000 because of the fact that, we're actually counting on some interest earnings on the bond. That's why we're getting to that lower number. I wanted to make sure I cleared that up. And I, again, apologize about the debt service figure number here. We'll have to get that to you.
why that helps me is because, or it helps everyone, is that we need to understand what that
No,
bond
that's all-
payment
That's
is.
all of it. That's all debt service in the county. Yeah. Say that again, Commissioner.
I said, the reason I'd like to know that, what the bond payment is, what the bond payment would be, because some said, well, why don't we finance it internally? And so we just need to have that number and say, well, pretty big hit on our budget if we'd have to give up a lot of other things.
Right.
So I want to know the number, though, so we can
Gotcha.
get it to various scale, so.
Right.
And just for clarification, I was going to ask this question, and I'm looking at the report here from the sheriff, that we're asking for $299,500,000 in a 20-year bond, but the whole project's going to be $307,138,597. That's about an $8 million difference, and you're saying you're anticipating interest being earned, and that's why we're asking for a little bit less than what the project overall cost is.
Correct, and
Okay.
it is worth noting that these are preliminary numbers, and these were, of course, calculated before the events of the last 2 weeks. So we know the Fed interest rate has been lowered. We're expecting it to lower again. But we also have issue costs that are currently coming in based off the same estimate at just over $1 million, which is just over double what the OPEB bonds in 2015 were. And we've been advised that that number has some wiggle room in it. So if we come in short on interest, we're hoping to grab some there to be able to keep the number ultimately at your $299 million that we're quoting here today.
All right, and just, I know you want to talk, Andre, just give me a second.
on the floor, right?
All right, Don, sorry about that.
Give that to the chair. I have questions on the overtime, Sheriff. Do we as a county need to change any work rules to help you with overtime issues in the jail?
As far as,
I don't know.
It's a 24/7
comp time, there's always ways to work a system to get, to get the maximum, if you're getting retirement, you want to get more hours and overtime.
Yeah. Well-
If there's anything we could do as a board to help you, give you the tools you need as an administrator to help tighten up the shifters, you don't have to be dealing with overtime problems unexpectedly the way you maybe have, or.
well, the positions are the positions that we have to fill, so that number is always going to be there.
Okay.
But, if we want to just talk about the forced overtime,
Okay.
is the fact that, the younger employees don't want to work the overtime. Older, those back when we had the defined, and I know it's a hot topic, but the defined benefit plan, they could work all the overtime and it'll calculate into their final average compensation. With a 401K, there's no benefit to work the overtime. Those that want to work it. Those that don't get forced, basically. And we go through a process, but From an operational side, it's just I don't have the number of people to staff the positions that are currently in that facility.
So if we give you these number of employees to do the jail, and these employees would have the same attitude, they don't want to work, we're going to still be in the same overtime position we are, even having given you all those other employees to...
No, if you were to give me, looking at the two things currently at that, say if you were to come up with 45 new positions, we would properly staff the current facility, and you would see a reduction in the overtime side of the house.
There'd be no scheduled overtime. They'd be working 40s?
They would be working their normal 40-hour, or whatever it equates to. They work 20 days out of a 28-day schedule.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Sheriff.
You're welcome. Thank you. Commissioner Dujay, are you off the list, or are you still on? This list is all over the place. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. And I don't know who to ask. When we did the kitchen 11 years ago, let's say, the estimate was for 3.2 million to redo the kitchen. Everything came in about 2.8 was the number, and that was quoted, and then we came in even under that. Let's go the other way. If we get all the money on the bond and the numbers come in lower, where does that money go? Okay. And it's by the grace of God, let's say we come in under budget.
We hope to come in under budget.
Yes.
I'm not the money guy, so I'll let the money guy.
So where would the money go?
So the excess funds more than likely would, if you're saying the entire project was completely done and we were under budget in that scenario, we have excess
just
proceeds.
for the sake of argument.
Okay, for sake of argument, we'll say yes. So if we get there, yes. So if we get there, then we would redeem the bonds early that we could, and in an amount roughly equivalent to the overage, so that we could give the funds back. Otherwise, we'd be subject to obviously penalties for holding
that's
funds.
the question.
Yes.
Well, without any change orders or anything else. One suggestion that I would make is, and I got lambasted for it before, after everything's said and done, if you make a deal with a contractor and give him some sort of time frame that he has, if he goes over on the time frame, charge him back. And be done with it. But in this environment at this point in time, it might sound outrageous, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do come in under budget. You can laugh all you want, have at it. But that's what I think, and that's how I feel. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Even Disneyland went over budget. All right, any event, Commissioner Sauger.
Yeah, one of the real answer to that overtime, which you always ask, and the sheriff has no authority over this, he'd love to, but there's too many bureaus, let's put them on 12-hour shifts. But there's too many bureaus in that department, some want it, some don't want it, so that's your answer to overtime. The nurses can do it, and back and forth at hospitals, they all do, most of them do 12 hours, but it ain't gonna happen over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sauger. Okay, Commissioner Kraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, going back to the mental health bed question. Originally, you have it broken down to 162 total, and then you divide it up to 84 medical, 78 mental health. Let's say you have 80 mental health inmates, and you have 80 used medical beds. Can you use the difference for the other mental health? I guess I'm asking if they're interchangeable.
Yeah, they could be interchangeable because the nursing staff, mental health staff, and
Same
custody staff, it's going to be all on one floor, one kind of hospital-type setting. They'll divide it up.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Vice Chair Carabelli.
Thank you, Leonetti. Chairman Leonetti. I went and we brushed over it very quickly. In your documents, I think it's roughly $3,300,000 and some odd $1,000 of additional work that needs to happen to the jail if we build a new one or not. And the budget of project, I think, was close to $600,000 a year for just normal taking care of the old facility. Then the flyers that come up. You mentioned the kitchen. Well, that kitchen was $1 million. It wasn't anticipated because they found black mold and boom, we had to get on it right away. These are the things that keep happening to this older facility over and over. They were putting good money after bad. And that's why I'm a proponent of not remodeling and building a new one because of the infrastructure problems and everything else that we know is going to come out with an older building. And if you keep adding on top of it, you got to take it apart and you got to start doing it right. Well, guess what? In my opinion, it was cheaper to build new from the additions and everything else that had happened under the jail. And again, what's on the sheet that you guys can total up over $3 million of stuff that is anticipated that could go wrong. Well, understand there's a $2 million budget line in our capital projects for the air makeup system that's throughout the years, the next few years that have to be replaced. Some of the stuff has to keep going, but then all the other flyers that Lynn or the sheriff, no one can anticipate, and those are the ones that are stinging us. The ones of those lights with the speakers. That wasn't budget that, hey, we're going to do this in the future. It ran out. They don't make the parts anymore. We had to go spend, how much was it? Over $1 million. So there was one that wasn't even counted on that we had to come up with and we couldn't budget for because we didn't know that we were going to stop making parts. So as we get going, listen, I don't want to spend any money at all. I get it, but at the end of the day, I look at the cost of throwing good money after bad, and if we went back in the last 15 years, we'd have a hell of a down payment for a new jail, the money that we've had to put in there to put Band-Aids on stuff to keep it going down the street and kicking the can. Well, it's time to stop kicking the can and get her done. So thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners? Okay, Sheriff, thanks a lot. I appreciate. Oh, Gillette again? I'm sorry.
I'm just going to make a note that I don't think there's any commissioner that I'm aware of that says the current facility's fine, we just need to patch it up. I haven't heard anybody suggest that. I think we all recognize that it needs to be addressed. It's just a question of which approach to address it. That's all. Thank you.
Certainly. Sheriff, thanks for the presentation. Thanks for showing us what the new proposal is. I know you and the executive got together. It was announced at his State of the County address, and we were all looking forward to seeing what the new project is. So I appreciate you and Vicki, presenting it to us. Vicki, is Vicki still here? Did she
had a
okay.
Corona
Steve, and a gentleman that from the architects, I assume the next meeting we're going to have, per what Vicki said, was that we're going to see these financials. And so you know how this group is. We're going to want to take a look at it, and we're going to want to see what these contingencies are. I mean, you just can't tell us you have contingencies. I'd like to see what the numbers are when you come back, hopefully next time. I know Vicki's not here, so I assume she's going to be at my next Records and Public Safety meeting because we have a timeline here. But I think it's important, Steve and the gentleman back there, that you give us some good numbers to look at because we've got the plan now. We see what the new plan is. The next round of questions is going to be the financing and the build. Okay. Anything else?
Motion to receive and file.
Okay. Supported by Gillette. Okay. All right. We're going to do the voice vote. All those in favor of the receive, vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We're going to move on now to new business. Is there any new business? Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Just very quickly, MAC has canceled all committee meetings. Well, they're doing them all by teleconference. We've got a conference at the end of the month, one I was looking forward to. We're evaluating right now. I'm expecting most of the speakers to drop out. We were expecting the governor. I don't think that that's going to go. NACO just contacted us and said that they're evaluating the one in Yosemite that I'm supposed to go to in May. So obviously California's a hot spot. But given... Huh?
It's a beautiful place.
I know, I really want to go. We booked extra days on either end of this thing, and my husband and I haven't done that in a long time without kids, and so I'm a little bummed out about it. But just to put it on your radar, they're doing that, and I don't know what discussions are taking place at the county. Just putting it on your radar. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Several months ago, Crystal had a presentation she gave individually to some county commissioners about how our other project construction costs fared with regard to projected budget. And I'd be interested if that information might be available at the next meeting as well, so we can see how, like, the campus renovation, that should have, was it 5% over budget, under budget? How did we do in projecting these costs in other projects of similar cost and nature? It'd be interesting to have that information available. Also, just like to make a comment that I think I was a reference by a previous commissioner. I had never, ever at one point stated anything close to that the art millage was going to fail. As a matter of fact, I predicted the exact opposite in every public capacity. But I'd be willing to make a bet with this commissioner on the potential for cost overruns, but I encourage him to listen to what's happened on past projects before he takes me up on that wager.
Commissioner Drollet brings up a good point. I know Commissioner Brown was bringing it up and other ones. I mean, ultimately, we saw the plan today, so it's a reduced plan. The real issue, is going to be the build and the finance. So, I mean, we're going to have to take a look at that and see. I especially want to see what these contingencies are. If I remember correctly, in the last plan, I thought there was like a 13 or 14% overrun on that plan. That's what I remember. And if we look through the records, I think there was a 13 to 14% overrun, which is unheard of. In the usual private sector, it's about maybe an 8% overrun. So, I was shocked by that. So, just to let you know. Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, getting back to, it is true, they've got on the plan, and to their credit, they've reduced it. They heard the cry when they brought the first forward plan, and they went back and said, guess what, we can, what's that? Yeah. But they got religion and came up with found out really what they really needed that could cut back on something and save us some money. And that has to be credit to them. I mean, there's something to be said about that. I mean, it was over $400 million looked like they were going, and now it's down almost $100 million less, and you got to give it to them. I mean, I'm still not sure where I'm going to go with this, but it's still a pretty big number. I mean, I'd perfectly prefer us to, instead of wasting this whole year talking, we just do incremental work and get improvements made there now, but I lost that argument, so now we're here. So I'm following along what's going on, but they've made a credible comeback.
Just to echo here real quick. I know. Sorry, just to think about, we did fight about this thing for a year. Remember, there was a proposal to put it on the November ballot last year, and they would have put on that plan that they've now said, you know what, it was too big. So I do agree incremental is always the best way, but we've been incrementally moving this thing along, and we've already saved now 80, well, the difference between this plan and the other plan is some $90 million. So, so the process is working, but so commend ourselves for taking our time and doing our diligence and making them present the stuff and putting it down a little bit. That's what our function is as a commission. All right, Chairman Smith.
I like the idea of tethers. Right, it's a good program to reduce the cost, but is the cost having someone come through my window, at night on a tether as opposed to being locked up in a jail? I mean, jail is the best course of action, obviously, and so, I mean, I don't know.
Chairman Smith.
Thanks. I already spoke to it a little bit. We're going to have a meeting on Monday regarding this whole protection, the county's response to the coronavirus. That meeting is going to be Monday. Obviously, everybody will get an update on it right after that happens. And also, Leon, I think, we need to talk more as a board about, we do have retiring bonds coming up. Now, if this millage even passes, I think that we need to set some kind of a plan, even though we can't plan for future commissioners, as to taking that money and maybe paying this bond off quicker or something like that. I think we need to look at the finances going into the future and use some of those to get rid of this bond if we do in fact pass it. So I'd like you to, keep up with what you're looking at on this, because I think it makes a lot of sense to start using this other money towards this. But that's it.
Can you speak to details of that meeting you're having Monday? Who's all going to be there? Where's it going to be at?
Well, Patty and I from our office are there. It's going to be at Verkulen Building, and it's just, do you know, Crystal, any more about it?
I can read the invite.
Yeah, would you please?
Okay. A briefing for all elected.
There you go.
A briefing for all elected officials and department leaders in the training center at the Verkulen Building to address the continuity of operations, planning considerations, how we manage sick leave, and basic preparedness. Messages to be shared with staff. Please make an effort to have at least one person from your leadership team attend.
So we have two. So I might designate Patty and just stay out of the group, but I'm just kidding.
All right. Yeah, I got you. You don't want to say anything? Okay. Anybody else have any other new business? Anybody else?
Mike, how fast after?
Okay. Public participation. Anybody from the public wish to address this body? Going once, going twice, closing public participation. And we've got a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Drolet, Commissioner Douche. And all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Full
Okay.
board in 3 or 4 minutes.